are a lot of different ways to tabulate Major League Baseball payrolls. Nobody in our corner of the baseball world does that more diligently than Ethan Hullahan, and his total for payroll money that was actually spent. Well, we'll get to that after the intro. Good morning to you. Good Friday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Pirates. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into football and or hockey, I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Penguins in the same place that you found this. Ethan's total for the year 2024 is $87,303,855. Say it again, basically $87.3 million. Now, before getting into what that means, I'm first going to point out and remind, if you're a longtime reader or listener, that I have only ever utilized end of season payrolls, because opening day payrolls, which is the ones that most people curiously cite, don't mean a thing. All that is the addition of all 26 salaries on the opening day roster, plus anybody who might be on the IL or whatever. But rosters can and do change. Sometimes those payrolls, most often, go up. Sometimes it's way, way up. In the Pirates' case, it actually ended up down about $500,000. Without getting too technical, that was basically within the Martin Perez trade, which the Pirates adamantly insisted was made so that they could acquire a coveted Latin American prospect. But that's it. It's 87.3. What I have heard, and by this I mean what myself have heard directly, is that this payroll figure is going to be $100 million next year. And while that might sound like, whoa, big doings for the Buccos, it's really not like at all. On one hand, I'll remind that the Pirates hit $100 million, that threshold, for the first and only times in 2014, 2015, and 2016. Not before and not since have they crossed that line. And even then, when they did cross it in those years, it was just barely. It was like sticking your big toe in the pool. So if they do so again, as I'm hearing, it'll still put them between $20 and $30 million behind the entire rest of their division, basically. With three of those teams, the Brewers, the Reds, and the Cardinals, being in virtually identical markets. So if and when they get around to trying to pump that up and get you all stoked, keep this in mind. But also, there's this. That's a $13 million difference, obviously, from this year to next. Now, while I don't think anybody anywhere should turn their nose up at the Pirates ever spending more than they did the year before, I've also got to point out that $13 million isn't really a whole heck of a lot when it comes to Major League Baseball free agency. It cost the Pirates $10.5 million for their highest paid free agent in 2024, and that was Aroldis Chapman. And he's going to be a free agent again. And he's probably going to make right around the same money, because anybody who watched Chapman would know that, yeah, he's getting older, at least it says so on his birth certificate, but the arm never seems to age. He can still bring it at 103. But if you want me to go all the way here in dousing any potential celebration over this, let's say that the Pirates brought back, and hear me out on this, Chapman and David Bednar. Bednar is going to be arbitration eligible. Most of the projections that I've seen for Bednar's pay in 2025 would be around $6 million. Why? Well, yeah, he had a rough year. He had some blown saves. Arbitrators look at how many games you play, how many games you're in. They're really, really big, I've been told by agents who've been in these sessions, on participation, Now, while that sounds kind of lame, it's a really objective tool if you think about it. If your team is putting you on the mound as a relief pitcher, 70 to 75 times a year, they're telling you what they think of you. You don't have to ask. They keep using you. And since Bednar would have not just this past season, but also the 2 seasons before it, and all the all-star accolades and everything else that followed, yeah, he's going to get paid if the Pirates tender him. And if they do that, and I'll save Bednar for some other show some other day. But if they do that, and hypothetically, if they were to bring back Chapman at the same price, they're just $16 million right there. That's $16 million. And as I'm saying it and you're hearing it, neither of us is convinced that either of those moves would happen. But that's what they'd cost. And sure, you can go through the rest of the roster and say, yeah, but, this guy's going to be gone and that guy's going to be gone. Okay, Rowdy Tellez goes. He got paid $3 million. Who's going to play first base? Somebody. And if it's a free agent, they're going to take up some kind of significant space in the payroll. You would hope anyway. You get the idea here. There's no windfall in this. If and when they get around to letting people know that payroll's going to go up, Charrington's mentioned it once. It was more in passing. But I'm talking about really letting people know, like standing there at Pirate Fest on a stage and saying, and payroll's going up. I don't see this happening, but I'm just throwing it out there. Just know that it's not a big deal and it's nowhere near where it should be. When we come back, J1Q.
It's Gun Storage Check Week. Help prevent unwanted access to your firearms. No one wants their unsecured gun to be used in an accident, a suicide, or a crime. Use lockboxes, safes, and locks to secure your firearms. Learn more at gunstoragechek.org. That's gunstoragechek.org. Brought to you by NSSF, the Firearm Industry Trade Association.
Today's J1Q comes from my man Milo, who, in reference to yesterday's episode about the new hire, Kevin Tenenbaum from the Guardians, and my at least floating that he could have made a lateral move from Cleveland to Pittsburgh, to move up and maybe move all the way up in baseball ops. Milo says, your reasoning here is sound, but one small thing bothers me, and that's that an analytics guy would think that he's on the fast track to get the GM job here. Call me old-fashioned, but I kind of like a baseball guy for that job. And it's okay to confuse me with someone who believes that over-reliance on the data stuff has hurt the game more than it's helped it. Milo, I've spoken and written over the years about baseball's advanced analytics, how much better they have always been, but also continue to be than those of the other professional sports. And I've praised the effect that they have in terms of understanding what it is that's being watched. I think it's immeasurably helpful to know a pitcher's exact movement and break on a pitch, the spin rate, pitching velocity, exit velocity, trajectory, the path of the swing. These are analytics, but they're really data points more than anything else. They're information, and there's nothing wrong with information. I always feel the need to bring that up before I say what's next. And that's that analytics, kind of like math itself, just raw math, is all about what you do with it, how you use it, what your objective is that you're trying to achieve with it. I see, just as an example here, and this might be one of the things that bugs a lot of people about analytics. The Pirates very clearly under Andy Haynes, but really under Ben Cherington, because it's his hitting philosophy, have everybody trying to run up pitch counts and work walks. They've on occasion tried to deny that, but I mean, here again, there are data points. They take so many pitches. They take so many third strikes. Over the past 3 years, they've struck out looking at a historic rate. That's data. But what's the flaw? What's the problem with it? If you ask me, and I have but one small voice, you're taking the bat out of the batter's hands. You're training the batter to not do what the batter is supposed to do. And you can talk all you want, including in that day's pregame prep, about how we want to be aggressive at pitches we like. We want to go after those pitches. But what they don't tell you, and they do tell the hitters, is but only go after them in this quadrant. Only go after them if they're this type of pitch, because that's the other guy's weakness. And oh, by the way, when you go after that pitch, swing like your life depends on it. No matter the count, no matter how many outs, no matter the score, no matter how many runners are on base. If you ever want to know why the Pirates are so awful at situational hitting, it's because they don't do it. And I see that as a really significant flaw. I see that as the chief significant flaw of the 2024 team. And if it was just a couple of guys, you could say, all right, it's just a couple of guys. But when it courses through the entire lineup and onto the bench, and then when players arrive from other teams or get promoted from Indianapolis, and you see them almost immediately fall prey to this same nonsense, there's a commonality. And it's rooted in a grossly skewed goal that's set for these analytics. So it's not the data to blame. It might not even be the way the data is meted out. It's just a bad objective. I appreciate everybody who listens to Daily Shot of Steelers. A reminder that the Swartz brothers, Carter and Canyon, are having another one of their protests downtown Sunday at noon on the steps of City Hall. They'll be making their way through town, apparently going to come to our place, I've been told, meaning the DK Pittsburgh Sports headquarters and shop on 5th Avenue, and then proceed into Market Square and then across the 6th Street Bridge to PNC Park. If you happen to be with them, hey, feel free to stop in and say hello on Sunday. This program will be back Monday morning.